All right. Hope everybody is doing well. Waiting for some people to jump on here. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Robert. I am Chief Revenue Officer for BW&CO, and we're a grant writing firm. We help companies apply for federal grants and contracts, largely focused on research and development activities for innovative technologies. So we have about a 50 PhD team in terms of grant writers and consultants that work with us in helping people apply for these, as well as the administrative support, Department of Defense / Department of War business development, and CPAs on our team to help with award administration and accounting. So this is a webinar going over the SBIR STTR program. Obviously, there's been a lot of discussion around this program ever since reauthorization lapsed in September or in October. So we're going to go over kind of what the strategy should be in the line of thinking should be for this program going forward here today. I do want to mention that we obviously work with the SBIR program very actively. And if you are interested in this program or other programs and wanting to use our assistance for that, feel free to, I'll put something in the chat for you guys to be able to book a call or learn more information from our website. So just a few notes for today. The chat is disabled. If you have a question that you'd like to submit for consideration at the end, you can use the Q&A function, which is on the lower taskbar of Zoom. You can hit that, type in your question, and we'll plan to address those after Christian's discussion, and we'll go through those as we do. If you're interested in learning more about us, you can visit us at www.bwcoconsulting.com. And I'll put other pieces of information in the chat as well. This call is being recorded and will be uploaded typically to YouTube afterwards for you guys to view. And this slide deck that is presenting today will also be sent in an email after the call as well. So slides will be sent, call recording will be sent. If you want to book a call, we'll give you access to be able to do that, to find out how you can use our support to go after these, and we'll go from there. So Christian is our Chief Grants Officer who's going to have the discussion with you guys here today. And so I'll let him take it from here.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. And welcome, everybody, to yet another webinar put on by BW&CO. I hope everybody's staying warm. I hear there's another cold front coming our way, mostly on the East Coast. So I'm certainly staying warm today. So I appreciate you joining. As Robert mentioned, there is some questions still about the SBIR program. It lapsed. It has been around for a while. We'll talk about that in a second. And it is about to be reauthorized. At least that's what we're hearing. It could be as early as next week, perhaps another week or two thereafter. But it certainly will come back around because it's been around for 40 years. And so in preparation for that, this is our second annual SBIR overview of the SBIR and STTR program, also called SBIR and SITR for short. So without further ado, let's get started. This is for you if you are a U.S. startup or small business, which means if you are a for-profit, at least 51% owned and controlled by a U.S. person. U.S. person generally means a green card holder or a U.S. citizen. Or you could also be controlled by another small business, a qualifying small business. You have to conduct your business in the United States. And you have to have less than 500 employees, which is usually not an issue. But there are some other startups out there that grow fast, and they still qualify as long as they're less than 500. There are some exceptions to VC ownership. We'll talk about that in particular because your strategy should include, if you ask me, venture capital funding mixed with SBIR funding. So you'll start with SBIR funding, as we'll talk about, and then have venture capitals contribute to your startup as well. There are some exceptions in terms of majority ownership. Those are by the NIH, the NSF, and the DOE, where you can have more than 50% owned by VCs. That's not the rule. But that provides, or provided that no single fund controls the company. So it has to be a couple of companies that make up more than 50%. Otherwise, it can't just be a single VC fund. Talk to us if you have questions in that regard. It's really for any technology domain, any technology you can think of that you're developing at any stage, really. Of course, at the early stage, phase ones and phase twos, But if you already develop and you have a department, a research and development department, then you're welcome to apply to SBIRs as well, as we'll see in a second. Companies exploring non-dilutive funding, we'll talk about what that means. And teams new to SBIR and previously unsuccessful, that of course always helps if you have some guidance, as we will provide today. So what you learn, we'll talk about Congress and the SBIR and STTR programs, what the federal agencies actually use the program for, or what it was intended for, how phase 1s, 2s, and 3s work in practice, what non-dilutive means, and whether or not the SBIR might be a fit for your roadmap for your company as you progress. It was created in 1982, so a little over 40 years ago already. The SBIR and then the STTR, the SITA program, followed in about 10 years later, and it's administered by the SBA, Small Business Administration. It's technically to stimulate technology innovation in the United States. The United States always wants to be on the forefront, of course, of technology, and to stay that way, they created this stimulus program to use federal funds, and in particular to support small businesses in that endeavor, and to have them participate in the R&D program, or the R&D, the federal funds that the government receives from our tax dollars, of course. And it's to meet the federal mission needs. So there's the government institutions that have mission needs, and of course these research institutions, or rather the small businesses, can meet those needs through this program. It's not a welfare, so don't be afraid to reach out and apply. Or strict academic research is applied research. It's technically a technology sourcing mechanism for the government, if you will. The role in the innovation ecosystem, it sort of complements private capital, so not a replacement. Very important strategy we'll come back to here in the future slides. The program funds work that is technically risky, so you can technically de-risk your technology through government funds. So why pay for it yourself if you can have the government de-risk your technology for you on your path to either commercialization, or later on working with the government and selling your information on your technology to the government. Sometimes it's too early for VCs to get interested in your technology, and that's why the SBIR program is a fantastic program to get started with. In phase 1s, you sort of validate your technology, and then you get more interest from VCs because they know that you have a product that's viable. And of course, mission critical to the agencies has to be. So it takes your idea through prototype and to final commercialization. That's it in essence. How do they use it? So agencies cannot buy what does not exist. So a lot of new and avant-garde and innovative technologies don't exist, and so that's why they put this out. And so it allows the government to explore new technical and innovative approaches. Innovative, I'll come back to that several times. Innovative is the key for lots of government agencies. And they work with small and agile companies. So rather than working with larger companies that tend to have lots of red tape, it takes a while to get things going there. Smaller companies are more agile. They can turn things around faster. And that's of importance, especially in this day and age of the AI, the advent of AI. So many new technologies coming out that are AI related. And so small companies being agile makes a big difference. And then, of course, it reduces the risk for the government before they procure anything when they do development work with you. These are the 11 participating agencies. The top ones only participate in the SBIR program. The bottom ones here participate in the SBIR and the STTR programs. So that's the Department of War, as it's called now, the National Institute of Health, the Department of Energy, the NSF, National Science Foundation, and NASA. All those have SBIRs and STTRs, and the USDA as well, snuck in there. What's the difference between the SBIR and STTR? In general terms, SBIR is where the small business leads the research and development efforts, and you can have partners, optional, if you want them. Highly advisable to have partners, subcontractors, consultants, but not required. On the STTR side, the technology transfer research program, as it's called, you need to formally collaborate with a nonprofit. Usually, but not always, that's a research institution, usually a university. Not all universities are nonprofits, but for the most part, small businesses tend to partner with universities in that regard. The R&D effort is then shared. That means the PI could either be with the research institution, the RI, or the small business. When do they come in handy, the STTRs over SBIRs? There's fewer STTRs. For deep academic IP, for instance, a university-originated technology or a faculty-led commercialization path. So if there's several professors out there that have technology that they would like to commercialize, for example, they can partner up with a small business and utilize this STTR program, or the other way around. There are a plethora of technologies that are unused as of yet in all of our universities in the United States. I encourage you to go out, reach out to the universities. They all have a outreach department for IP, intellectual property that they own, that somebody created in their university, and it's just sitting there not being utilized. So even if you don't have your own technology that you're working on, you can perhaps commercialize somebody else's technology being at their universities. Also, federal agencies that focus more on academic rigor. So there's some agencies like the NSF, like NASA, like the NIH, anything to do with medical. They lean heavily on a team that has an academic background. And so for that, a lot of times STTRs come in handy there. The downside, if you can call it that, would be required coordination with the universities, for example, takes a little longer than just working with yourself or subcontractors. And you have to have some sort of an IP rights agreement. You don't need to, but it's highly encouraged to make sure that you know what you're given the university or what the university gets in terms of IP versus what you retain. Usually, the background intellectual property is retained by each party, and the foreground intellectual property, the one that you're working on jointly, is then somehow divvied up whether or not the university just gets royalties. Maybe all they want is income from the technology, or maybe they want a part of the IP. That's up to you to discuss in this IP agreement. That's also standard. The structure then, for the most part, there's phase 1s, 2s, and 3s. Feasibility study for phase 1 initially, then you develop the technology further and test, and then, of course, phase 3. That's the ultimate goal, commercialization. We'll come back to that. Dive into each one of these. Phase 1's feasibility and validation. You validate your technology, your idea, from back of the envelope napkin type of calculation, let's say. In the industry, sometimes it's referred to test readiness levels, TRLs 1 through 3, or thereabouts, where 9 is commercialization. You're ready to commercialize and sell the product tested on the market. And so that's early research, but again, it's applied research. The objective there would be to prove the technical idea is viable, and typically that is limited in scope to somewhere around 250,000, give or take, agency dependent, and 6 months of period of performance work. It has clearly defined technical or research questions, and the focus is on reducing the risk reduction, not product launch. So it is technically a feasibility study, an early validation. It's not a full product development, a revenue generation, or scale up at this point. The phase 2 then, on the other hand, is sort of the prototyping, development and prototyping. So typically, but not always, it's between TRLs 4 and 6 to advance your technology. It builds on, for the most part, on a successful phase 1 results. The conversion from a phase 1, statistically speaking, it's about 10%, 15% success rate of getting a phase 1 in the first place. It's 50% on average to get a phase 2 from a phase 1 as a follow-up. So that's the way to go. Once you have a phase 1, it's much easier to get a phase 2. You can also have a direct to phase 2. Those are options if you've done your own research and you think your technology is advanced enough. Talk to us if you have questions about that. It's a larger scope, somewhere around 750 to 2 million, depending on what agency and what grant, with a period of performance of 1 to 2 years. And you're developing prototypes, pilot studies, or systems integration in relevant environments. It's still R&D, but again, it's applied R&D, not commercialization at this stage. After this, you have what's called phase 2Bs, for example. The military, the Department of War, has a fantastic option, TACFI and StratFi. Those are two options, about $3 million to $20 million. That's really a lot of companies stop at phase twos, and that's what you should not do if you obviously have the opportunity. Keep going and utilize these phase 2Bs because that's where the money is to bridge the gap from a phase 2 to a commercialization. Once you're at a phase 3, the commercialization, that's where you want to be. So that's the ultimate goal, because then you no longer receive funds from the SBIR office, the SBA office, but you can get government contracts. So you can still get funding from the government, but for the commercialization of your technology. The interesting part is it's either government contracts or licensing, depending on your arrangements. Of course, the commercialization, you then also sell commercially your products to other than the government. But the nice part is you have these SBI data rights that apply for 20 years. You own the technology and nobody else can do anything with it. So the government can't give it away, can't go to anybody else either. If they want your technology, they have to come to you. That is really key. So that's why I underlined this. Not always the case, but for the most part, sole source justifications can be used. Once you've had a phase 1 or phase 2, that means that the government does not have to fully and openly compete when they would like to take or receive your technology. They can go directly to you, and that's your money worth gold right there. That's where it's at. So phase 3 commercialization is where you want to get to, and we can help you with this strategy. Come talk to us. What non-dilutive really means. So you don't have to give up equity to the government. Usually for SBIRs, they don't want equity in your company. For other proposals, grants that are out there, BAAs, etc. There's a plethora of other grants out there as well besides the SBIR program. And there sometimes you do have to give up a little bit of capital. There's for example, like the National Institute of Standards has a big grant out, a CHIPS program, where you are required to potentially give up a little bit of your IP. But for the SBI program, by and large, that's not required. That means no ownership dilution, so you still own the company unless you give it away to investors, VCs, and you retain your IP if you file your IP patents as you normally would. Downside, if you can call it that, funding comes with performance requirements. So you do have to provide reports, standard reports, periodic reports, of course, to the government. But it's R&D, so if it fails, it fails. There's not a requirement, or somebody will not hold your feet to the fire if something doesn't work out. That's the whole point. Now, of course, if you want to get a phase 2 follow-on, then having a successful phase 1 makes sense. The intellectual property at a high level. So as I mentioned, the business generally owns the IP. If you file the IP, the government receives limited rights. Those are usually royalty-free rights worldwide to use the technology any way they see fit, within limits, of course. Again, they can't give away the technology, but they can use it themselves. They don't want to profit from it other than use it for themselves. Again, the 20-year SBIR rights are very important. You need to make sure that that's on your proposal. When you submit, there's an SBIR rights clause, and also on all the reports that you submit, they all need to have this message on there, this rights clause message, so that your technology is protected. Exact terms vary by agency, so contact us if you have questions. Private investment. So as mentioned, SBIR does not prohibit VC, on the contrary, or angel investors. What it's used for, grants can de-risk your technology, as mentioned, and then strengthen your fundraising narrative. So VCs become more interested in your technology once you've de-risked some of the major risks that are out there, if you put those aside. That's important. And then VCs get interested. There are some agency restrictions in terms of VC ownership, as long as less than 50%. Usually that works out just fine. If it's more than 50%, as mentioned, it has to be more than one VC, not just one company that owns more than 50%. Small businesses SBIR strategy in a nutshell then. So this is the nutshell, the golden slide per se. should not be a one-off grant. So don't just submit one grant and be done with it, especially if you don't get it at first. A lot of times you have to reapply and get make your proposal better, advance it, because you get reviewer feedback and they'll tell you what wasn't right or what they didn't like, what can be improved. And so definitely keep going. And once you get one grant, don't stop either. Keep going. Look at the grant strategy. You need to fund high-risk technology and innovation. So once you have a department that does business development or other R&D fund or R&D development, even if you have entire developed products, there's always new technology that you can develop. And for that, you can use the SBIR, utilize the SBIR program. You retire your largest risks, going through this process from phase 1s to phase 3s, which roughly align with some of the venture capital, the pre-seed stage, the seed stage, and the Series A that usually applies to the company at large. But of course, this is if you are starting out and you have your first product on the market, then there's a good alignment with your technology in this regard. So you have a feasibility phase 1, meeting the pre-seed stage. If you're so lucky enough to have investors that are interested in that, then you build the prototypes in phase 2 and then transition to commercialization. Again, you establish credibility with VCs and angels. And the ultimate goal is your path forward is the sole source on the phase 3 funding. That's really what you're after. What reviewers look for? Very important. These are 3 or 4 high-level themes that we come across all the time. Technical merit and feasibility. It needs to be innovative enough. It needs to be technically sound. It needs to be aligned with the mission agency or the agency, the mission of the agency. Because if you're building something for one agency that they don't have use for, then it doesn't matter how well your technology works or how great it is. It's just not going to fly. They're not going to fund your proposal. So that alignment needs to be there. And again, there's 11 different agencies. So there'll be an agency for your technology, I'm sure of. Team's capability, as mentioned, if you can, even under an SBIR, you want to make sure that your technology or your team is capable of providing the technology, all the aspects covered, all the verticals of your technology need to be covered by some individual, whether or not it's a consultant or a subcontractor or yourself, one person, multiple people. As long as your resumes show that you're capable of handling all the technology verticals. And again, if you can reach out to the academic community, university professors, especially now since the funding has been somewhat limited. It's coming back now if you look at all the different funding that's coming through Congress, it seems like they're reauthorizing more than what we had feared would be authorized. So there's a lot more funding coming. But still, the universities, professors are always looking for partnering with small businesses. So your team needs to be capable, and it needs to be a clear, realistic work plans that you submit. What are some of the reasons why tech fails? Misalignment in the agencies. I mentioned that you're overly ambitious in the scope. They can smell. It doesn't pass the smell test. If you're trying to bite off more than you can chew in 6 months or 2 years, whatever it might be, then they're not going to fund that because it's not credible. If you have a weak technical narrative, insufficiently innovative, again, innovation is key here. Treating SBIR like a pitch deck. This is not a pitch deck for an investor or investors. Don't be afraid to disclose the secret sauce. Again, the SBIR 20-year rights protection applies. So you don't have to give away or talk about every little detail, but it needs to be detailed enough such that a savvy a professional that knows about your technology that's reviewing would be impressed by what you're trying to accomplish. So there's a fine line between giving everything away, but not enough. And a weak or non-academic team. Is it right for you if you have a real technical risk to resolve? Your technology aligns with the federal mission, and you can execute R&D. So you need to be savvy with R&D and how to handle research and development projects, not just product delivery. It's usually not a fit if your product is already built, with a caveat there. So it's not a sales grant. You don't sell something. That comes under the phase 3s. talk to us if you have that. For SBIR's phase 1s and 2s, you got to have a product that you're working on, that you're developing. If you have a developed product, you can probably find a derivative that the government might be interested in. You need immediate cash, not a good idea. It usually takes quite a while, 6 months from the time you submit on average before you hear back. So that's not good if you need cash immediately. And then no clear government use cases mentioned. I'm going to run through these a little bit faster since we're running out of time. Do-it-yourself proposal. So you can, of course, write your own proposal, especially in the day and age of AI. We did a webinar on just AI technologies, so take a look at that. If you won before, if you understand the agencies and what their needs are, and you have the time to meet the strategies or define the strategies, and you can write your proposals. The risk is that sometimes you underestimate the time that's required to actually do all those things. When a grant writing partner makes sense, so a lot of companies come to us, engage with us, companies like us, BW&CO. When it's your first time, of course, we'll help you through that. If you're unclear of which agency to go for, your team is strong, but you're new to the SBIR structure, or you just don't have the bandwidth to do it yourself. Rule of thumb, SBIR is strategic to your roadmap. Expert support usually pays off. And some information about BW&CO. We accelerate your technology development. We do that by looking through funding strategies, proposal development. Of course, we write the proposals, and we provide commercialization support. We connect you to the right innovators and the right opportunities. And there's a snippet about myself down here. As Robert mentioned, we'll send those out. Next steps, book a meeting with Robert right here to discuss any of these or other information as you like. So it's not free money, so you have to work for it. So don't be afraid to put those in. It's a powerful tool when used strategically, and working with the right team matters. And I have some backups here, but we can look at those, or you can look at those when you get the actual proposal or the actual slide deck here. So I'm going to hand it back over to Robert.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Christian. Thanks for the overview of the SBIR program. Hopefully that was helpful. We do have just 2 minutes left, and we have a bunch of questions. The biggest question is around reauthorization as kind of the most pressing matter. Christian, do you want to give maybe just a 60-second response in terms of what are expectations, what we're hearing about reauthorization for the SBIR program as of today?
Absolutely. So as mentioned at the beginning, there is momentum. This is a 40+ year Congress authorized program that's not going to go away. It has taken a while because of the shutdown, of course. The SBIR program was not reauthorized right away. They're working on it. There were some issues there in terms of the, they call it SBIR mills or SBIR mills, companies that just use SBIRs for the sake of SBIRs and getting money from the government rather than commercializing. Ultimate goal is always for you to commercialize your technology. After 10+ SBIRs that you've received, you need to show proof that you're commercializing in some sense or fashion. So there was some back and forth between two senators that have now mostly resolved those differences. We hear that as early as next week, it could be reauthorized, but if not, then in the next couple of weeks. So there's no way that it's not going to be reauthorized. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. So stick the course.
Okay, great. The one thing I'll note, and just kind of in addition to that, as we prepare for these applications, number one, SBIRs are a great mechanism. We have some positive updates on them being reauthorized. There are currently quite a few opportunities that are active. So if you go to www.bwcoconsulting.com and click on the funding tab, you'll see all of the currently active solicitations that are available. It's filtered by whether you're in the medtech community or if you're in battery or AI solutions or similar. And then number two, if you are planning to write your application from scratch with internal resources, we have review services to basically get you guys the templates and forms that you need. Have one of our PhDs on our team do a review before submission, just to kind of do a bird's eye review and a second look at it before you submit. And that can provide a substantial amount of support as well as strategy before engaging in that. So we have fractional services as well as full engagements. I'll send some more information on an email about that later on. But yeah, want to give you guys back the afternoon. Thanks for spending it with us. I'll send an email out here within the next 24 hours with this call recording, slides, an opportunity to book a call with me to talk about next steps as you pursue these opportunities, and we'll go from there. So thanks everybody for joining, and we look forward to working with you here soon.
Thanks, everybody.